We're back on Morning Movers in Diane King Hall here on the floor of the big board. To preview today's big tech earnings, I'm joined by Ivana Delevska, founder and CIO of Spear Invest. Ivana, it's so good to see you. All right, before we dive into your overall expectations for the Mag 7, I'm curious to know your thoughts on earnings season so far, because the beat rate is higher than usual at more than 85% at my last check. What's your thought on this earnings season so far?
Well, Dan, I think the setup is very positive this earnings season, and it's mainly because on the AI side, so we cover B2B technology, we are starting to see the Blackwell chip of Nvidia ramp. You saw yesterday, Jensen Huang was at GTC, said over 500 billion of Blackwell and Rubin revenue expectations for this year and next. That implies almost 50% growth year over year. So pretty big increase in numbers. So we expect that we're going to see those types of same numbers from the hyperscalers themselves right now, like Microsoft, Google, and AWS, and that's really going to trickle down the entire value chain.
It's so amazing that you mentioned that, because we've been watching Nvidia today set to become a $5 trillion company, the first, because we just recently talking about a couple of the new mentions in the $4 trillion club. So now there's a new goal. So let's talk about the hyperscalers, Alphabet, Google in particular. What are you looking to hear? What are the metrics that matter the most to you when they report later today?
Well, investors are really focused on the cloud service providers' growth, right? So the Google Cloud will be key in terms of how it grows. For us, actually, we're really watching the metrics on Gemini, because I think for the next leg of the AI trade, especially for the hyperscalers, it's all going to be not how much capacity they add, but how much value are they generating from AI internally. Okay. So for Google specifically, it will be Gemini. For Microsoft, we're really watching the Microsoft Office Copilot, right?
Oh, really?
So it's really going to be all about how they're monetizing AI right now. It's not necessarily just adding raw capacity, because on the capacity front, you are seeing a lot of new entrants. That's not going to be a high margin business. The question is going to be, what do you do with that capacity internally?
So does Azure not matter as much to you this cycle? Or?
Well, I think it still matters very much for numbers, right? But if you look at the stock going forward, Azure is going to be much lower. The capacity additions on Azure are going to be much lower margins.
Okay.
And Microsoft is really a software business. So if they keep growing this, they're going to kind of dilute their margin profile. Okay. However, if they can turn around the Copilot side and make that drive earnings, that's going to be a much higher margin.
Is Alphabet, Google still your favorite in the big tech?
Yes, okay. Absolutely. I think they're the best position in this capturing the AI, not just adding raw capacity. So that's why we like it. The rest, Amazon is a bit of a show me story here.
I know.
They really need to show that their Trainium hardware works. They haven't been able to show that yet. They have one company that's a giant, Anthropic, that's on their platform. They need to sign up a few more deals. So that would be a show me story. Microsoft, it's kind of like, it's going to compound. I think they're going to do well. But I think Google is the best position out of the group for more of an outsized performance.
What would you need to see from AWS? Because what comes to mind, one, AWS has been a growth driver for them, obviously. Recently, we had that AWS outage that, affected different platforms, but it feels like that's a bit on the back burner. What do you need to see from it to feel better about them in terms of catching up, since you say it's a show me story?
Yeah, so right now, Diane, basically, Azure is growing at over 30%, and AWS is growing less than 20%, right? So you really need to see this growth reaccelerate. Even though it's on a larger base, right, it doesn't really matter from the stock performance perspective. They still need to be beating pretty significantly for the stock to work. So it's really going to be about AWS growing, and for AWS to grow, their internal hardware needs to be doing well, because they're not as reliant. They chose a different route. They still offer Blackwell, right? They're still a very large buyer of that, but they are really reliant on their internal hardware. So they're really going to demonstrate that actually works and delivers similar performance to Blackwell.
I'm curious to know your thoughts on Meta, with them set to report. Obviously, they're viewed as a key AI player. Are you looking for more on monetization? Are you paying attention to advertising? Does that even matter to you? Because, to be fair, advertising is a big part of their revenue.
Absolutely. So I think it's going to be all about how AI is impacting advertising, right? Because we know kind of what they've done in the past. We know they're investing a lot in AI. The question is going to be, is this going to move the numbers, right? So to my prior point, I think for the group as a whole, the key is going to be, okay, we're making these investments. Are they showing up in numbers?
I want to ask just your overall market take. We've been hitting record after record, but not full participation. You think the story through the balance of this year, what there is left, because we're basically just a couple months left in the year, is really all about what happens in the tech sector?
Well, I think the tech sector is a big driver of the economy right now. And it's not necessarily tech as traditionally viewed, right? Right now, we're going through a big data center build out, and that affects all of industrials, right? It affects all of energy. So it really is driving the economy in a very organic and sustainable way, right? So I think we're on the cusp of a new investment wave. This is why you're seeing a lot of the stocks on the infrastructure side do very well. I think that's going to continue for the next 3 years. And then the question is going to be, okay, are we seeing the returns that justify further build out of AI?
Great insight as usual, Ivana. Thank you. Always appreciate Ivana's perspective. That's Ivana Delevska. She's the founder and CIO of Sphere Invest.